Few more people. So, welcome everyone to Waking the Sacred with Kathleen and I. It's absolutely lovely to have you all here. I'm speaking today from Bibliman country in Western Australia. Um, it's always interesting because we're often speaking to people in different parts of the world, and in different parts of the world, it's quite warm where we are, where I am at the moment. It's this stunning kind of moist, cooling. Everything is starting to become very lush. So I'm really enjoying that after a period of kind of quite a bit of heat and dryness. And Kathleen, where are you speaking from today?
Kia ora, everyone. I am speaking in here from the Bay of Islands, Aotearoa, New Zealand, and it's a beautiful autumn sunny day with crisp tinge in the shadows.
Mm. Beautiful. So we're just going to start today's class by setting some sacred agreements. So Catherine, I'd love you to, Catherine, my gosh, good start. Kathleen, my dear friend, I would love you to open with those.
Yeah. Well, firstly, just welcome everyone. I mentioned it before we pressed record, but if you would love to come on screen today, you will not be recorded. There will be an opportunity coming up in a little bit to put your voice into this collective field, if you so desire. And so I just want to set some sacred agreements just so we can have this field of safety and coherence for the work that we're going to be doing today, the experience that we're going to be experiencing today. So, first sacred agreement is that just feeling as we go through, we're encouraging and inviting you to just feel into your body, like what feels good to you. Do you feel like having your screen off, or do you feel like letting out a sacred sigh, like taking a big deep breath in and just giving a bit of a shake? And you may need to just give a shake permission to do whatever you need as we go forth, because we are going to be sharing a lot today. Sacred agreement of just holding compassion for self and for others, because we're all calling in here from different parts of the world at different times, different different things may have happened throughout the day. So just having compassion, holding a field of compassion for each other as we're all here. And is there any sacred agreements that come through for you, Vive?
I think you've already spoken to it, but it's just allowing yourself to notice what is arising in you and how you respond to whatever it is that Kathleen and I are sharing. And like you said, to hold compassion for whatever is arising, for the what,
Mm.
not needing to pin a why on it, but just so much of today is a noticing practice and allowing yourself to do what you need to support yourself. If something comes up that is a bit crunchy, that is a bit stretchy, to take your eyes off the screen, to open the door or close the door if you need to move your body. There's no need. We don't need to be good students today. We can turn away from the screen, we can turn our cameras on, we can turn them off. It's all welcome. And really, what we're inviting you to do is just be in relationship and responsive to what it is that you need as you're in class with us.
Mm. And like the name of our class today is Waking Up the Sacred. So we're going to be going through some different stages and phases today of taking you through some visual and some experiential practices. Mm.
Yeah. So we thought we might start just by talking a little bit about, I mean, I think if you were part of Metamorphosis, you're going to know a little about Kathleen and I, or perhaps even a lot. So the work the places that I come from, I was a massage therapist for a long time, so I worked with the body in that way. And these days, my work is informed by something called body dreaming, which is an iteration of Marion Woodman's work with body soul rhythms. And that really is what informs how I work and how I relate with the world. And I just invite you, Kathleen, to just share a little bit about you as well.
Thank you, Vive. And I didn't actually know that you were a massage therapist before, so it's beautiful to find that out. Yes, so I love to call myself an apprentice of the universe because I'm ever learning and ever in communion with beloved planets, with our beloved stars, with our beloved source, the divine feminine. Um, I also love to weave and co-create, and this is why um, Vive and I created Metamorphosis through this shared love of the potential that becomes available when we can be with others, reflecting and responding and lifting each other up. And just, I, my journey has kind of evolved over the years from one-on-one consultations of bioresonance frequency medicine and esoteric hypnotherapy now into immersive co-creative spaces. We can weave the gene keys and astrology and quantum medicine into these experiences where we get to be together.
Yeah. The being together is such a big part of it. And it's certainly what we loved so much about the interviews that we did for Metamorphosis was the being in the dance is how Kathleen and I talk about it. And as we come together in this container, in this vessel, the way in which we teach is that we are inviting you to kind of use the sieve method. I actually learnt that term from Kimberly Ann Johnson. But the idea is that today we're going to share quite a bit of a practice and information with you, perspectives, and it's not that you need to hold all of it. It's trusting that whatever lands for you in this class, in this moment, is what is meant for you, and that we can always circle back. We can always come back over the material, and we're never going to be the same person as we're circling back over that material. But just to trust that your body is going to receive what your body needs to receive today, and never to worry about missing or not being able to comprehend everything. The practice that we're teaching and that we're working with is it's like looking at or our experiences through various portals, and the portals that we're going to touch on today are image, sensation, movement. And I don't mean movement in terms of habitual movement, but movement that kind of comes in, like here I am, I'm describing this to you and my hands are kind of moving like this. Or Kathleen often talks about you, I think you've called them wands before, like how she expresses herself. So the movement that comes in that is spontaneous. And the last two are obviously meaning, so the thinking function, which is often the portal that we're most practiced in, and affect or emotion, which is another area I think in this day and age that is sort of tended to, that we have quite an awareness of our emotional realms. So that's what we're going to start to do today, is just noticing what is arising in terms of sensation, image, movement, meaning, stories, thoughts, and what was the last one that and emotion. It's funny that I forgot emotion. I was just talking about it. So noticing what's happening in me, what's arising in me as I listen to Vive and Kathleen speak, or as they share or take me through a practice, and just noticing. That's all we really need to do today. If you'd like to, you can just make sure you've got your drawing materials handy, and you're welcome to doodle and to draw as you're listening to me speak or listening to Kathleen speak, because it can be interesting to see what emerges just as you're not being super focused, hyper focused on what it is that you're drawing, but you're just kind of letting the hand move. It's like a way of the energy moving through the body. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, and you're welcome to come off mute. You don't have to, but you're welcome to come off mute because we're going to just start by making some sound in our own body. with a hum. And so just letting yourself get comfortable if you're seated or you're lying down or you're standing, however you are, just starting by feeling the feet on the ground. You might like to take your shoes off and just kind of rub your feet on the ground and just kind of feeling the toes extending. Maybe you're just going to press the feet into the ground. Just let yourself orient to the feet, meeting the ground, receiving the ground, and the ground receiving the feet. So even here, as we're sitting, there's this reciprocity. One is receiving the other. The ground is receiving the feet are receiving the ground. And we're supported. And if you want to bring a little bit of movement in, like Kathleen is, that's okay. Noticing what it is that you'd like to do. And then just, if you want to, you can just placing the hands on the cheeks and just noticing what's going on around the face. Letting the jaw and the tongue go slack. Noticing if there's any sort of tension or holding in the forehead and the back of the neck. And just seeing if you can let that loosen just a little bit. And then if you like, you can place the hands out in front of you, or you can keep them in your lap, wherever they kind of want to go. So trusting your instinct here, trusting the intelligence of your own body. Maybe they want to go onto the heart. And then we're just going to close our mouth and we're going to make a humming noise together. So I'll do it. I'll demonstrate first and then we can do it all together. So closing the mouth, taking a breath in through the nose. And as we do that, as we make the humming noise, just letting the noise kind of become loud, maybe it wants to go soft, and see if you can settle at a volume that feels really easeful, almost as if it's not requiring a lot of effort. So, placing the hand on the heart, or if it wants to be in the face, wherever the hands want to be out in front of you, taking a breath in through the nose and just letting the hum come out. And as you do that, just noticing, is there sensation present in the face? Is it somewhere else? What is the sensation that you can feel? And if you like, just kind of letting yourself now continue that hum, seeing what happens as you do that. Letting it fill the mouth, letting it fill the face, seeing if it wants to travel anywhere else in the body. And then just letting yourself do one more hum that is probably the quietest hum that you can make, and imagining that you're standing near bees and you're almost echoing the sound of the bees that are near you. And just see what happens in the body as you do that. And just pausing and letting it be silent for a moment. I'm curious what you're noticing, Kathleen. I'm wondering what you've noticed as you've been humming.
Oh, as you may already know, if you were part of Metamorphosis, and if you weren't, I'm a hummer and I always hum. But what was just so beautiful was the invitation to hum more quietly like a bee and to feel that different vibration and actually how that felt me. I felt connected to the bees by that invitation. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And we wanted to start with that hum for a reason because the voice and how we speak, the resonance that we feel in our body, it sets a tone, a little like we were talking about the tone that we're setting together in this group. That everything that we're doing and saying and how we're relating sets a tone. So, this relationship with self through the voice, feeling the resonance of the voice, starts to grow the relationship that we have then with everything in the outer world. And we all have a voice. It's how do we relate with the sounds that we make? Where in the body does the sound come from?
Mm. And it kind of goes beyond language as well, the hum. Sometimes you may not have the words, but the hum or the whatever it is.
Yeah.
Mm.
When does the hum come in? Like Kathleen said when we were interviewing, there's a hum that comes in as an agreement. I see with my kids often there's like singing and humming that comes in sometimes for regulation. So just being curious for yourself, where does the hum come in? Do you notice? Do you notice? Do you not hum? Do you not make a lot of noise? So we thought we'd just start with the body and start in this way with the body, but now we're also going to just go on a journey through relating with image. And Kathleen, I'm wondering if you might bring up some images and speak to that.
Yes, and just before I do, as we go through these images, they may be evocative or maybe provocative. And so just noticing, are you drawn towards the image or are you like, do you go backwards? We're really inviting you to just now we've come into our body a bit to just start noticing is something evoked or provoked in you as we go through this visual feast. And just if you have your pencils or your pens or your paper, we invite you to write down as we go through, is there a sensation or a color or a word that comes through? So I'm going to share with you all now. Here we go. So this is me and Vive are going to just be a bit silent here as we share these images. Hang on, just give me one moment. There we go.
And as Kathleen said, it's just this process. It's incredible what happens when we direct our attention to noticing. And it's a big part of how we start to uncover what it is that is sacred to us. What feels sacred? What does sacred feel like? And we're going to talk about that in a sec, but just I'll go quiet now, Kathleen, so we can relate with the images.
So I'm just going to leave each image up for just a little moment, and just like I said, just inviting you to write down or just to notice like what sensations, what is evoked or provoked for you through each of these images.
And just toggling back. So perhaps it's sensation in the body, perhaps it's a story that comes in, perhaps movement, like Kathleen was saying, we would move away or we move towards, or an emotion. And for those of you who are just joining, because I've just let a few extra people in, we're just going through a process of relating with the images. that Kathleen is sharing, just noticing what's happening as we look at the images. It's not something we have a lot of space for in our days, in our daily lives. It's just to notice what's arising in us when we're relating with things, be it other people or be it image.
Maybe bringing focus to the different textures. And does something, you know, tapping into your other senses as well? Is there a taste that you can associate with one of these images or a smell? Maybe you hear something.
And as we look at image, we might be reminded of another image. It's actually something that I think about a lot that kids do, gazing at clouds. In the clouds, we might see the clouds form something else. And as adults, perhaps we forget to do that daydreaming. So, what happens when we're gazing at an image? What other images emerge from that? What other shapes take form?
How can we precisely, can we see a face? Can we see another creature?
I think it can be interesting too to notice where your eyes are drawn to look. If there's parts of the image where you are more wanting to go than other parts, and just noticing that, noting that down.
And just going back to that compassion that we spoke of at the start of around waking up the sacred is compassion for other beings that we maybe haven't thought of as a fellow being before, or had a curiosity to get to know them in a different way than just being a pest. So Vive and I are now going to go back as you continue to write. We're going to go back through each of these slides and just share a little bit about what is evoked through each of these images for us personally. So Vive, when you see this image, what is evoked for you?
Yeah, there's something about the green, the contrasting with the sticks, and I think always think of like hummus and that kind of things breaking down. Yeah, I kind of and then just as I was saying that, I kind of get the sound of the crunching of a foot on the leaves. It makes me think of like a memory of crunching through the bush, walking through the bush.
Yeah, I love that, Vive. And for me, the crunch, I like can feel my fingers like crunching the leaves. And then that contrast of the soft moss and feeling that moss upon my feet. Oh, just this delicious, soft contrast to this. Like, there's that word for people, my kids do it. They watch people or listen to people eat things. There's an actual trend, asamaya, or it's something around that. But yeah, that kind of satisfying crunch.
Mm.
What about this image, Vive?
Well, this is a favorite. It's actually of my front porch. And I remember seeing the trail and thinking, wow, I've never seen a snail leave a trail like that. And then the next thought that came in was, wow, it's leaving a trail behind, but it doesn't leave a trail ahead. There's no trail ahead. And I remember, I think, sending it to you, Kathleen, with regards to kind of this journey of metamorphosis. I was like, wow, isn't that just a beautiful image of that we can kind of see where we've been, but we're not sure where we're going?
Mm. Oh, that's so beautiful, Vive. And just this now, I feel this invitation to just take a breath and just slow down. And that maybe that's a symbol of snail is that grace to take a sacred pause.
Mm. And this one was interesting, Kathleen. I wonder what you noticed with this, but my eyes go straight to the wings. There's something of the reflection in the wings that I just find so beautiful, even though I'm not sure if everyone can see, but it's a dead dragonfly. So it's on its back on the gravel. There's something very magical about the reflection in the wings that's alive for me as I look at that picture.
Yeah, an iridescent mosaic and just the sacredness of death, of this just witnessing of the dragonfly, which is so symbolic of metamorphosis, of that death and rebirth. You know, that dragonfly will decompose and then will feed and become something else.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, the prickly pear. The prickly pear. This one is my friend that I gaze at out through my office window. And I think you spoke to it, Kathleen, that there's something about the prickly pear. It makes me think of like that it is a creature, that there's creatures within the prickly pear that kind of come alive, that I see it's even with the, you know, you're the beautiful photo that you've got with the headdress. I think of that. I think of the flowers of the prickly pear like a headdress on these characters.
And I see, I don't know if anyone's seen it, but that movie Ice Age, and there's this sloth, and I think his name is Sid, the sloth. And I see when I see this prickly pear, I see I see Sid the sloth. Yeah.
So I guess what we're trying to show everyone as we're relating with these images, and we're very interested to hear, and you're so welcome to put it in the chat too, what is being evoked for you as we go through and we look at these images. That this is sort of what happens when we start to tend our relating with nature, with things in nature, with image. It's like something inside the relating comes in and it's bringing in like for example with this one, Kathleen, I always think of butterflies and that that's exactly it just looks like a butterfly and how beautiful that nature reflects these other things in nature.
And it is, I did literally buy this beautiful bush because it looks like a butterfly. That's why I bought this bush. And why I wanted to share this image is because you can see it kind of one of a couple of the leaves are kind of blurred. And I feel like this can kind of be representative of the phases of metamorphosis, of becoming the becoming the butterfly, moving from the cocoon chrysalis, the goo, and then we become the butterfly. And then what's our next? What's the next thing as we take flight? Mm. And we'll just quickly move through the other ones because we want to leave some time for you to come in and speak if you what have been evoked for you if it resonates. But yeah, maybe you do this one, Vive, and I'll do the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something of a delicateness that comes in for me as I look at that. Like it's so beautiful how this the webs sort of almost create support um in quite a precarious sort of setting, but there's something so delicate that comes in for me as I look at those webs,
Mm.
the way that they've been woven in the place that they've been woven.
Yeah, the beauty within the brown and the old. And this image nearly didn't include this image because it was like it's a beautiful purple flower, like what, but then was drawn into the contrast of this purple and the intricacy of these little antennae against this kind of dullish background. Being like beauty can pop up anywhere, and its beauty is in the eye of the beholder as well. Just for it's purple, and I love purple. Anyway, but just the contrast of something that could be dull, a little bit dull.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, that contrast keeps coming up for us, doesn't it? I
Mm.
think as well, and I love this, this made me think of my kids, and it's kind of funny. It's like I think of seagulls and I think of the birds kind of on the shore, and it just like what is like left, these hints of what is left behind after something has visited.
Mm. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, footprints. It reminds me of that sort of quote of the footprints in the sand and of like being carried. You know, there's only one set of footprints.
And I just want to add in here before we come to this last one, Kathleen, because I'd love you to speak to this. But what happens and what is happening and why we're even doing this is that we're showing this is how this in this tending and understanding and noticing what is being evoked in us as we relate with things, we're actually coming to understand and know ourselves more. We're developing this relationship with ourselves through being in relationship with other things, with the natural world, with the image. So, this is sort of how we start to unfurl and understand what it is that animates us, what it is that feels like the sacred.
Mm.
And
Or
Kathleen,
doesn't, or doesn't
or
feel like the
doesn't.
sacred.
Yeah, yeah, good.
For example, this is a plastic spider with a dead moth, but the reason I've included this image is because years ago I did this course with Puma Frederiquis who we interviewed for Metamorphosis, and he spoke about finding this plastic toy on Machu Picchu and how his grandfather said, you know, even this comes from Mama, from Pachamama. So everything is born from her, everything can return to her. And this really stuck with me over the last kind of 6 years since COVID of everything comes from Mama and everything returns from Mama. Not that we go and litter and keep up with our plastic consumption, but just knowing that everything has energy and that if we can kind of find that glimmer of sacred or we can direct that energy to something, then even a plastic spider can become something really special.
Mm. I want to just share something that Shirley's put into the chat. She said, we can form relationships with almost everything in the universe once we take off the blinkers.
And I see Sandy has a snail as her profile picture. So we just wanted to invite anyone if they would actually love to come in and just put their voice in and share something that's been evoked. And if you would like to, please just put up your virtual hand or your hand, and we'll be able to bring you in. Mm.
And while we're waiting, I might just share something that Elizabeth put in the chat. She said, "Here's a string of words evoked from the images for me: lucid dream, textured impressions, feathery tickles, unruly wild, honey bells, prickly juice, shimmering corpse, steady and humbled, devoted direction."
Mm.
Mm.
Oh, that is poetry in motion.
Mm. Mm.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, everyone. We
Mm.
might move on. We
Mm.
have so much more juiciness to share.
We do. And I wanted to just share a little insight. It actually came through from our dear friend Ryan, who is, we're going to talk about in a little bit, but he shared something with me the other day, and it felt really relevant to what we're talking about here in terms of what is supportive for growth and for growth in these ways that feel sacred. And he said that there's zero evidence that one school of therapy is more effective than the other. The only consistent predictor for psychological growth is the quality of the relationship between the therapist and the client. And I said to Kathleen before we jumped on the call, like, this is so relevant to what we're talking about in terms of if we think of ourselves as in relationship and building relationship with ourself, with the natural world, with our dreams, with image and things that come into the imaginal, that for us to kind of grow and really experience the sacred, it's just purely about building this sense of trust
Mm.
in our own relationships and the way that we relate for the unfurling to happen. And that's certainly been my experience. And I think, Kathleen, that I would not be speaking out of turn to say that that's also been your experience. That the more that we work with dreams, and we're going to go into that in just a sec, but the more that we work with relating with image, the more that we relate with nature, the more sacredness is actually felt in the body and in the daily lived experience. We don't have to go out to find it because it's actually a living, breathing thing in our relationships, in the energy of the relationships and the relating. So we were just going to touch quickly on what do we mean by sacred, because we don't think that there's a fixed definition. Would you agree with that, Kathleen? We feel like what is sacred, it's something that emerges in relationship, and we figure out what feels sacred or what doesn't, like Kathleen said with the images.
And also would just love to preface that maybe the sacred has a connotation with a religion or something. So maybe there may be some kind of distortion around the word sacred as well.
Yeah. So we're wondering if you're up for it, just to put into the chat words that you might associate with sacredness or what feels like the sacred, or maybe it's images that come in when you think about what feels like it's sacred to you, just so we can start to kind of build our own language for what is sacred together in this container today.
And so, Vive, would you love to share what sacred means to you?
Yeah, I'm going to just quickly share what has come in: joy, silence. And Anna said, sacred feels like beauty, bliss, joy, love. Sacred for me is a sense of aliveness. I think it's like an energy of aliveness. And I really started to understand it when I started creative practice again. And I also feel it Yeah, it's like when I really come into the present and I'm here. That feels incredibly sacred to me. Like I'm in my body and I'm in the moment. What about you, Kathleen?
Yeah, sacred to me is Um, the rituals of, for example, having a cup of tea and like smelling the tea and then maybe tapping into the lineage of a tea and where this herb has come from and the journey and maybe the people who have been involved in the gathering, the harvesting, the um making its way to you, this herb, or maybe it's that herb, the sacredness of going out in the garden and kind of feeling into where you're being called. Sacredness to me is that sacred reciprocation of being in reverence to receiving and giving. So, hugging a tree, for example, and putting your forehead against that tree, she's constantly giving her oxygen to you, but also in that moment of communion with the tree, she's just healing you, and you get to give that back to her. So it's really the sacred to me is tapping into the other beings, like the snail, tapping into the beings and how we can be in reverence and assistance to them as much as they are to us, because we're all part of this sacred ecosystem.
Yeah, I love that you brought reciprocity in, and we were talking about that before we jumped on the call, and that's also why I bring that in at that beginning with the hum, is that we're feeling the feet, that the feet are supported and receiving the floor, but also the floor is receiving the feet, and that there's always this energy of reciprocity if we can bring our noticing to it. Something I do in the garden most mornings is I come and I sing to the garden, because I realized in one of our conversations, it was actually with Erica and Mark John, I was like, what am I giving back to the garden? I mean, obviously I'm gardening, but what else am I offering? And so I started this sort of daily ritual of singing just a little bit, and it doesn't have to sound good, but offering that to the garden and to the plants. And it's so like, what are these things that we can do to bring sacredness and ritual in our own ways, in a way that feels alive to us, into our lives, to just start to nurture what is sacred. And just wanting to read out a few more of the comments in the chat. Kathleen Elizabeth said, sacred equals what transcends and includes all changing phenomena, an unconditional presence. And Louise said presence, the pause, being in community, love and feeling joy of a child. Yeah. Feelings of the sacred, or devotion, conscious participation in the mystery. Yes, the mystery. Yeah.
Mm. Maybe just everyone just take a little breath in and receive all of those sacred transmissions that you may not have put into the chat, but you may be just taking these in. Let them wash over you.
And notice what happens as you do that. What memories are coming in? What images come in? What sensation can you feel? Like, what does sacred feel like in your body to you? What emotions? There's a lot of joy and presence and beauty and aliveness coming in here. But what is it for you specifically? How do we start to understand it?
Yeah, I feel when you invite me to feel, I feel like a sacred tear, like the waters that we hold within our body, how precious they are as well. So it's the sacred is also the sorrow. It's not
Mm.
necessarily all of these other, it's a sacred grief. I've heard Kada S. Brown say it say it before, and it actually helped me when my mum passed away. But our tears become the rivers for our ancestors to cross into the ancestral realms. So, yeah, it's not just these, it's everything. It's, or we can have sacred rage, not righteous rage, but sacred rage is this volcanic force of potential to alchemize something or to create something.
Yeah, Kathleen, you make me think about Michael Maiden when he talks about letting ourselves be moved. Like, is it possible to just let the emotion move us? So we're not trying to manage the emotion, we're not trying to stop it from arising, but there's a sacredness in just allowing ourselves to be moved by the what is arising in us without it
Mm.
being good or bad or having to be judged in any way. We thought we thought we might just do one more thing with you all. We would demonstrate one more portal. We've talked about image, we've talked about sensation and emotion as being these portals into a felt sense of what is sacred to us, of how we wake up the sacred in us. But we thought we might just do one more example of embodied dreamwork, which is something Kathleen and I love to do together. Kathleen, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. So I'm just going to share a couple of experiences from last night because it's fresh. So I'm just going to say a little bit about my dream and then pass it over to Vive. So in this dream last night, I recall was at my table and my family, we were going to play some kind of game, and I could not remember the name of the name. And then I could not remember the name of someone sitting at the table. Mm.
Okay, so what Kathleen and I are going to do now is just kind of demonstrate how we might bring a body dreaming approach to working with this dream. So, Kathleen, just as you've said the dream, I'm just wondering what sensation you notice is happening in your body.
Mm. I feel this inquisitive thread like coming up this line, like up to my brain, like this inquisitive thread. What, yeah.
And can you just let yourself trace that thread just really slowly with your hand? Because it was like you were drawing up, and I'm kind of wondering about where the thread begins as you draw it up, where that movement begins.
Yeah, kind of.
And just inviting, sorry, Kathleen, just to interrupt, but inviting everyone as you watch this, as you witness this, to also be noticing what's happening in your body. So this is part of creating this container as we watch, and you can mirror Kathleen's movement and just notice what happens in your own body as you do that. Sorry, Kathleen, coming back to you. So we're tracing this thread.
Yeah, it starts at my belly button and it's going up towards my brain.
Yeah. And then it kind of hooks over. And then where does it want to go after that? If you were just to continue to trace it.
Kind of just this golden thread wants to go up from my belly button to my brain, and then it kind of just wants to dance around.
And could we just let it dance around? Can we keep going with the
Mm.
hand and just
Oh.
notice what happens, even to slow it down a little? A little like we were talking about with attention and attending. When we slow things down, it gives us the opportunity to receive the nourishment of the movement that's coming in as Kathleen's relating with the dream. What's happening as you do that, Kathleen?
Mm. Just feel this peace, this whirlwind of peace.
It's a whirlwind of peace. That's interesting. Is the whirlwind fast moving or slow moving?
No, slow
Okay.
and rhythmic.
So there's a rhythmicness to it. And I'm curious, as you stay with this whirlwind of peace and you remember the not remembering people's names, what comes in as you do that?
it's again, Cada actually his I've heard him say before of like the sacredness can be not having to put a name on something, or actually when you label something, it kind of takes a little bit of that away.
So, not needing to put a name on something, just
Mm.
staying with that and noticing what happens. Yeah,
Yeah, just a release.
yeah. Sometimes having to define or put a name to things, it's like it does something to the nature of what was alive. So, this release in not having to put a name to it, not
Mm.
having to know the names.
Mm. Yeah, there's a beautiful non-judgment there, like not judging myself for forgetting that it's just inquisitiveness that's there.
And can we just stay with that just for a moment, just to really tend it and notice it and amplify the inquisitiveness through the body? And just giving yourself that moment. Is that an okay place just to bring that to a little
Mm.
close?
Yes.
So, just we really wanted to demonstrate for everyone that, even in this small little moment of Kathleen and I working together, that something like dreams, they bring in an energy and they bring in messages, and it can seem like the most ordinary, I forget my kids' names all the time. Forgetting, it can seem like an ordinary event that comes in a dream. But when we give our noticing and our attention and we start to tend this energy that's coming in through this portal, the portal of dream, there's there's something that we can start to understand more about the way that Kathleen had this, oh, actually it's not about me remembering the names of things. It's about me enjoying that things don't always need to be named. So
Mm.
there's this sort of insight in the energy that's coming through in the dream.
And that really comes back to that compassions um had at the start, I mentioned at the start, was just bringing releasing some of the judgments. Often we can judge our dreams. I used to judge my dreams, and we judge ourselves throughout the day, but the invitation is to, as we become in relationship to the outer world, also becoming more in that loving relationship to ourselves. And I also wanted to just mention something else, which was incredible that happened last night, is in between my dreamscapes, this repetitiveness started to come in. Tohu ngā, tohu ngā. Now, in Aotearoa, New Zealand, a tohunga is a medicine healer in Te Ao Māori, which is a Māori world, our First Nations, Indigenous people here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. But it wasn't tohunga, it was tohu ngā, tohu ngā, tohu ngā. And it kept repeating as I came in and out of dreams. It was a bit lucid dreamings that this, remember this, remember this, remember this. And tohu ngā actually translates to the signs, the signs, the signs. So, for example, when you see a rainbow, you say that's a tohu. It's a sign, a rainbow. It's a sign. It may be a loved one or something like that. So, just the synchronicities are sacred as well, and they come through the dreams, or they come through our friendships, or just following the sacred crumbs of synchronicity is an
Yeah.
invitation as
The
well.
hints, the hints.
Mm.
And Kathleen and I had that happen so much through the whole process of metamorphosis. Um, it is such a beautiful way of opening to life when you are allowing in those hints and breadcrumbs without needing to know exactly where they're taking you. but we also appreciate that there's a capacity for that to be in that liminal space, to be in that trust of following the hints and the breadcrumbs.
Mm. And so we just wanted to kind of close off this part of our gathering today. We have a really exciting next part, everyone. But Vive, do you just want to speak again briefly about the image?
Yeah, just thank you everyone for coming and being a part of this alchemical vessel. Just even by being present, whether you're here or you're watching the replay, we really felt it, and we feel it now, but we felt it in Metamorphosis as well, that it's creating an energetic tone to have you here, to have you present. And I suppose essentially what we've been talking about today is that the sacred is not something we have to go out and get. It's actually within us and within our relationships. And it is the energy between us and what it is that we're relating with. And the more that we're able to relate with it through these portals that we talked about, through sensation, image, movement, emotion, meaning, thinking, the more we're able to come into a place of trust and aliveness of relationship with what it is that is sacred to us. And that's what feels really important to Kathleen and I, is that people are able to start to trust themselves, that they can actually define what is sacred to them and bring that into their lives in an everyday way. Is there anything you want to add to that, Kathleen?
Yeah, just um, as you said, it's something that's not outside of us. It's already within us because we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. And so we're just going to just pull a wisdom keeper card. Um, we have the dragonfly synchronicity here. This is a um, wisdom keepers deck by Rosie Aronson. All these wisdom keepers are different archetypes of the 64 faces of awakening. They all interlink with the gene keys, if you know the gene keys. And we just thought it would be really beautiful to just pull a wisdom keeper live that will be able to take as kind of as our next step on this journey, whether you stay with us for the next part, you go away on your day, you come back. We just thought it would be really beautiful for us to have a wisdom keeper who's this um, visual keeper of the sacred we've garnered here today. Oh, look at her.
Anticipation, is that what it is, Kathleen?
Yeah, yes. This is the goddess. Oh, I'm going to read her guidance actually. This is a wisdom keeper of anticipation. Um, Anticipation, she moves. So the shadow of anticipation is fantasy, and she moves from anticipation into emanation. And so fantasy is not necessarily a bad thing. We love fantasy. We love fantasy novels and fantasy movies, but it's when we can not when we don't turn the key, turn the lock on the key and go and action what it is we're here to bring the world. And we just fantasize about a better future or fantasize about meeting someone or fantasize about all these things, but we don't take that next step. And so it's so beautiful that she came here today, actually, because she really just weaves together everything that we've been talking about, the sacred of like how do we take that next step through maybe going and seeing what Snail or whoever it is has to say to us. And Vive, do you have something to share before I read her guidance?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that anticipation is I feel like I heard you speak to this in your class that you taught. I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember what it was, Kathleen, earlier this year, but you
yeah.
talked about anticipation being, it's like an energy. It's something that draws us towards something else. And
Mm.
it's really important to feel we can trust and follow the energy, what calls to us, what animates us, what feels intriguing, and that we can't so often we sort of dismiss that energy and we think, oh no, it doesn't make sense, so I'm not going to lean into anticipation. But it's like
Mm.
anticipation is the thing that brings us into the action if we can trust ourselves to follow that lead.
Mm. And it's like the seed does not just sit there fantasizing about being a tree, you know, the seed like has this encodement within it, just as we do, but we need the right conditions. You know, the seed needs the right conditions to push through the soil and to withstand the weather. So waking up the sacred is really about like creating these conditions for us to become that big Cody tree or whatever the tree is that you want to be. Or maybe you want to be a
Yeah,
rebel and
the
you don't want to be a
unfurling.
tree. Maybe you want to be an eagle. So stay tuned, folks. So this isn't the end of our call. We really have an exciting announcement very shortly. But if you do need to drop off, we just love you, appreciate you, thank you, and this is just some guidance for you to send you on your way. I come when it is time for a new experience, a new world or life chapter is beckoning you. Every cell in your body is intricately linked, just as every impulse within you is communicating to the whole of creation. If you listen carefully, you can anticipate what is coming as well as what is truly needed. You hold the key to your dreams in your own hand, and it is your responsibility to turn that key. But remember, you're not here to manifest your dreams on your own. Allow others to participate and take one small step at a time. Pace yourself like the snail. Ask for help. Rest when you need it. Don't overdo it or underdo it. Do not expect things to turn out exactly as you imagine. Then embrace the thrill of anticipation. Mhm. And so, Vive, would you love to just share what our exciting announcement is?
Well, I feel like anticipation could not have been more fitting card, because we want to talk about something that has been born of the threads of metamorphosis. I think I might have shared in a newsletter recently that I was walking and thinking about all of the interviews, and I felt like I had this invisible kind of flame behind me. And something that Kathleen and I have been talking about is like there's so much richness in every one of those conversations. We learnt so much about ourselves, but also about what people were speaking to in terms of what is supportive as people are in metamorphosis, are in change. And so we were called to create a 5-week course providing exactly that. What is it that supports people to allow change and the energy of change um, to help us to become, to take form? And
Mm.
so, yeah, we came together and we thought about, well, what are all the elements that we know, both from our lived experience, but from what we've learned through these conversations and through our own areas of learning and expertise. And we put together these 5 weeks. Um, so 5 modules, 5 weeks. Kathleen, I wondered if you might talk a little bit about each of the, well, about at least module one.
Mm. And just taking people through the visuals. I mean, yeah, I love co-creating with Vive. There we go. You called me Catherine at the start. I'll call you
So
Eve.
good. I love that we're calling each other by the wrong names. It's part of the mystery. We're leaning into the mystery. So, yeah, I suppose just to before we jump into the module, so you can have an understanding of what's being offered in the course, what we know is it really helps to have the vessel. It really helps to have the cocoon. But
Mm.
also we do need resourcing and support when we're going through change. And I think that's often missed. It was something that Anna talked about in her interview, was how important resourcing is to have capacity for the change that we're meeting, for the friction that we often meet when we come into change. And so that
Mm.
is a big part of it is, well, how do we grow the capacity? And Kathleen, module one.
Yes, so module one, where am I? Learning to relate with self and our initiatory experiences. Now, this class, we're going to come together in sacred container, and we're actually going to start with our guides. So, Vive, before Metamorphosis, before each interview, Vive and I would just see which guides wanted to come in, and it was so incredible what unfolded in the synchronicities. So, really, just creating this beautiful container, like Vive just said, creating the banks for this river of who knows what is possible to evolve. So, just in this first module, beginning to trust your body, understanding it as with its innate intelligence, learning the somatic tool, we have daily practices. There is a community as well behind the scenes for people if you feel you want to come into a community and share your experiences, your dreams, your art, your creations, your questions. We're going to have a beautiful space to come and share. So, week one, just orienteering ourselves, just like the fractal of a shell. We're starting this spiral journey together. And I'd love for you to speak about module two, Viv.
Yeah. Well, this is something very close to my heart. And I love that question, like, what brings me to life? So this is part of starting to understand the hints and the breadcrumbs when we're tending relationship to ourselves, to others, to nature, and to the invisible realms. Like how we come to understand that what animates us and what brings us to life is telling us both about ourselves, but also supporting us in the unfurling of ourselves. So, learning that through the body and also how we orient to things that resource us, that feel like a resource in order for us to be able to get to know ourselves better and get to know what brings us to life.
And we
And
actually have a very special guest, don't we?
I was just about to say, I was like, oh, and Ryan. So we've also got the lovely Dr. Ryan Nielsen coming in week two to talk more about Eros and ordinariness. It's so beautiful. He had an incredible mentor, John McNeil. He's actually about to publish a book of their teachings together. Um, and I think if anyone listened to Ryan speak in Metamorphosis, you'll know he just has this way of relating. He's also a musician and he teaches music. So he has a particular relationship to Eros that I think you're going to love learning about in class.
And we will actually put that interview with Ryan into the replay email so you can kind of experience Ryan and the magic that is available when actually the three of us come together. Mm. Then we get into week three, exploring edges. So this is very dear to my heart. The depths, the depths of how do we, I think one of the greatest hopes of spirit is to incarnate here in the body. And how does spirit incarnate here in the body? Is through us kind of working with these shadows and these wounds and these patterns that kind of take up the space for soul and spirit and eros and all of these other sensory magic that we've come here to really live. And so we will be going into actually many of you can see the bullet points here. Viv, would you like to put the sales page, not the sales page, just beautiful creation into the chat for everyone? But we'll especially be coming and looking at the shadow through characters of our psyche and mythology. So, really seeing how mythology is played out of villainizing many of the characters and how this actually plays out in the collective, and how we can actually reclaim some of these archetypes to step into our power.
Yes. Kathleen and I really love working in that kind of gritty place, the gritty place of shadow and so much gold that's often revealed when we do that. So
Mm.
week 4 is about taking form and you taking form and what is sacred to you taking form and how we do that through crafting our own uniquely self-designed rituals of sacredness that kind of fit into our everyday lives. And how do we tend that so that we've got our own ways of supporting ourselves and our families and the places that we live in a way that feels meaningful to us.
Mm. And again, if you feel called in the community, sharing these daily rituals, becoming inspired, like how can these rituals create momentum within community, build this field of where we energize each other through the return to the ritual, which brings us to the return. And so we will also include Taria Ward's interview in the replay for Metamorphosis because she speaks about the return, and she's actually going to come and teach a guest, a bonus call for us as well. But the return is really coming and being witnessed. You know, when you climb up a mountain, you go on this pilgrimage, when you go on this big journey, and then it's not witnessed, there's no one, you don't get to share your experiences around the bonfire, then others don't get to receive that medicine, and the medicine doesn't fully become integrated in you as well. And is there anything you'd love to share about this module as well, Vive?
Yeah, I think there is so much to be said about really being seen and that felt sense of being seen in order for things to take, like you said, Kathleen, and also learning how to see and receive others so that their gifts can be woven back, that so it can be held in a way where the receiving of somebody else's experience it amplifies that experience, it expands that experience into their body so it really can take root as a new and integrated way of knowing and being. And
Mm.
that feels so important to us because that's certainly what I feel Kathleen does for me in our friendship and in our experience of metamorphosis. And we just really we wish for that to become something that is more common in the cultures and the places and the people and communities that we're living. And that really is the motivation behind creating this course.
So there'll be 7 classes, seven juicy, beautiful classes over these 5 weeks, and there will be recordings. I mean, we know that the time zones don't necessarily accommodate everyone around the world, and so there will be recordings and the community to come and like join in live and interact together. And so we'd love to just come to the sacred investment. So the frequency, energy, the currency of frequency is so dear to our hearts. Really would love a world where we invest in things and we receive things in this beautiful sacred reciprocation. And then, you know, there's so much wealth and prosperity in the world. And women, well, I know there's sacred masculine here, but women especially are very good at placing wealth into other beautiful projects and community and families. And I know there's many sacred masculine men, sacred masculine here who do that. And this is a new paradigm that we need to circulate energy, circulate money. And also, we're aware that not everyone especially if you come from countries where the exchange rate is not, is not as kind to the US dollar. So we're this course, our sacred 5 weeks of 7 classes is valued at sacred number of 597. But we invite you to come if you want to join us, if you feel this call to come and place your sacred reciprocation here of between 97 and 597. Like we really invite you to place your hand on your heart and just donate the number. It doesn't matter what it is, but just that it comes with your hand on your heart, your hand on your belly, and just taking a sacred breath in and a sacred sigh out. And what is that sacred number that comes through to you? Mm. And we just have some beautiful, beautiful praise for the experiences that people got and received out of metamorphosis, out of our co creation. Is there something you'd love to add, Vive?
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for being with us today. Like Kathleen and I, we I speak for myself, Kathleen, but I feel so grateful that I get to co-create with you
Mm.
and that we get to do this work, and it's work that means a lot, and it means a lot not just for us, but for the places that we live and for our children coming into the world. And it's it's one of the things that brings me to life to be in these conversations and to be working with groups of people like those who've attended today, who have a longing for knowing, doing, and being in different ways, that where reciprocity is embedded and embodiment is a part of just how we do life, where it's not something we consciously have to think about, and where these relationships, these sacred relationships, are just part of our everyday. If we can be a part, a step towards that creation, then
Mm.
when I'm 80 something, I'll be so happy.
Yeah, and I mean, this is how we change your world by waking up the sacred, by walking the sacred, by weaving the sacred together, whatever way, shape, or that form takes, but just knowing that it's all within you. And also, we get to experience joy when we get to do this beautiful work together. And so, just as we close off today, would you love to just put something in the chat, or you're welcome to come off screen and put your voice in, just so we can close off the sacred circle today? Lani said, anticipation, thank you. Mm. Aparajita, thank you, and sending so much gratitude. Sister Featherhawk, oh, what a beautiful name. Thank you for all your kind vibrations, and to Vive and Kathleen for your leadership. Shirley, sincere gratitude for giving of your time and wisdom to help us on the most important journey we are on. And Anna, I saw this the other day. The opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation. Oh, Jonathan Larson reminds me of what you shared today. Louise, thank you for creating this moment of pause, reflection, and sharing your heart. Beautiful. Casey, I just
Mm.
loved hearing a part about the dream and not needing to put the name. I felt something ancient there. Mm. Mm.
Thank you, everyone.
Mm. Mwah. And
Nisa
Lisa,
says
thank you.
thank
Thank you both and everyone for this lovely sacred container. We are honored.
And Gloria says, thank you for sharing your beauty.
Mm. Mm.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Thank you, Kathleen, my co-creator.
Thank you, Vive, my beloved sister.
I'll see
Hmm.
everyone later. Go well into today.